Welcome to another edition of the Commissioner's Corner. Today, I have a very special guest with me, an alum, a WCHA hockey alum representing the Ohio State University. Liv Soares is with us. Welcome to the show, Liv.
Thank you.
We're excited to have you. So this is a special edition as we kind of rotate. We spent the early part of February really celebrating the women who make the WCHA special as part of National Girls, Women's, and Sports Day, which we turned into a week. But the other really important thing, or another really important thing that happens in February, is Black History Month. And as part of an effort in our league to really recognize and understand the history of our Black female hockey players, I'm really thankful to have you with me today. You and I have had a lot of conversations offline about this topic and about your experiences and your willingness to have a voice in this area. So I'm excited to chat with you about that and just help educate our listeners a little bit about, the challenges that really are out there, and also some of the opportunities and ways that we can all be allies to our Black hockey playing student athletes. So I want to start with this though, Liv. I want to go backwards just a little bit and get a sense of how you got to Ohio State. So you're from Boston, grew up with parents who are, blue collar, nurse, firefighter. How'd you get into hockey and how did it get you to Ohio State?
I actually originally played basketball and I loved it. My sister played, so I used to play with her team a lot. And one of my friends, he was a hockey player, and I was hanging out at his house one day and he had practice. So the plan was for my parents to pick me up from his hockey practice. And I never knew much about the sport, never really saw it. And I remember his dad was skating and came up to the boards right where the door is to get on and stopped and sprayed up ice at me. And I thought it was the coolest thing ever. So we ended up moving, and I told my parents, well, if we're going to move, can I please play hockey? Can you please get me hockey gear? And they bought me gear. I wanted to be a goalie. They actually bought me player equipment, funny enough, but I started playing and fell in love with it and didn't look back. I started a little bit late. I started around fourth grade, but once I got on the ice and once I started playing it, like everyone says, you get on and you never look back.
Did you play growing up mostly with girls, with boys, a little bit of both?
I played girls the whole time. I played for our town, and then I started trying out for some club teams. So I played for the Bay State Breakers out of Massachusetts for most of my career when I was younger.
So was Ohio State the dream? Was Ohio State the opportunity? How did it play out?
The first time I visited was when my sister actually was moving in. She went from 2012 to 2016. And my parents were like, well, let's just meet with the coaches and see. And at that time, it was Candace Moxley who walked me around campus. And I fell in love with it. I told my parents that day that's where I wanted to go. And then I did a couple other visits, but it was really kind of set in stone for me. I kind of knew that, that's where I felt like I belonged. And then sure enough, Ohio State turned into a family affair. My cousin ended up attending Ohio State as well. My grandfather actually ended up working at Ohio State as well. So we all kind of ended up moving there together, which was a great experience.
So the Buckeye blood in your family right now. It's definitely it. That's awesome. So you come to Ohio State, and at that time, maybe the program was in a bit of a rebuild, if that's the right word. And you go through your career and you end last year, uniquely enough, with a win, which we'll talk a little bit about, but you have probably the best year, or arguably the best year in Ohio State women's hockey history as a senior. What did that mean to you? What was that like to be a part of that experience?
I think in that moment, seeing the culmination of all of it, I remember meetings with Muzzy freshman year about our goals. And I think sophomore year, we had an hour meeting trying to figure out, our values as a team and rebuilding the program and really starting from scratch. And then to all of a sudden look around and, we have on the championship hats, we have the trophy in our hand. It was an amazing feeling, but a lot of work went into it behind the scenes, and a lot of credit to the coaching staff and the players throughout the 4 years that I was there that changed the program. It was incredible. It was the best day.
The best day followed by some not so great days, obviously, as the NCAAs went away. So from your perspective as the senior and that's how it ended. Are you over it yet, or does it still sting a little bit?
I am not over it, I guess. I do take, I'm very grateful that my last game was a win. I think that's something that I'll never take for granted. I think there were teams who got cut off at different times. And, we did have our unfinished business, but I feel good that that was what we ended on. But at the same time, if you could get it back, obviously you would want it. So I miss hockey every day, but very, very grateful that that was the last game. I will never forget the look on my teammates' faces when we were holding up the trophy. So very grateful for that.
Yeah, I don't think I will either. I mean, obviously for me, selfishly, it was my first championship as a commissioner. And so there'll be some moments in my memory bank that will exist forever as well. And, quite honestly, and I think I've shared this with a couple of your teammates, the way that you all were playing it, the unfinished business part is real, because I really believe you were going to make a pretty serious run at the other trophy. And, hindsight's 2020, right? It's hard. I hope that pit goes away at some point for you, because you were one of the lucky ones that got to end on a win. And you're right, the excitement in your teammates' eyes and in your eyes, and it was quite a moment, no doubt. Let's talk a little bit about your position now. So you're getting your master's and you're working in some sport performance. What's next for Liv? What are you hoping to do here as you get into the professional world?
I think time away from hockey has shown me how much I want to get back into hockey. My dream has always been to be in college athletics, so I'm hoping over the next couple years to kind of ease my way back into that. And the hope is to become a coach at the college level. Right now, I'm kind of working on, like you said, the sport performance side and training and off-ice conditioning. And I've had the opportunity to work with some hockey players, and that just, makes me realize how much I want to do that for long term. So enjoying what I'm doing now, but looking forward to some opportunities in the future.
One of the unique things that we were able to do as part of the final face-off last year was bring youth teams in on our practice day and let them watch practice and then spend a little bit of time on the ice with you all. And the highlight for me of that whole experience for all four of our teams was the team that was with Ohio State. They were a team from Richfield, Bloomington here in Minnesota. Super passionate, huge Buckeye fans now, certainly, but they had a couple of young players who were Black, and they saw you, and there was this instant moment. There was this instant, like, someone looks like me, and just the joy in their face and the reality of that moment hit me so hard in the moment, because as a mom of a young daughter and as someone who really believes in the line of, you can't be what you can't see, I'm curious from your side how that felt in that moment, and maybe moments that you've had or were able to have like that as you were growing up.
Mm-hmm. I think when I started playing hockey, I never knew that people quite took a notice and that I looked different. I just thought, we're playing a game, my jersey color is different than theirs, we're going to compete against each other. I remember around U14s, we were playing and I was crashing the net, and one of the girls on the other team had some choice words and said some racial slurs, and I sat on the bench and I tried to play it off, and one of my teammates looked at me and was like, well, did you hear what she said to you? And from that moment on, I kind of realized that, okay, some people, this is really what they think about when they're playing. And then I remember talking to my mom after, and she is great for this. I'll always appreciate her for this. She said, when you leave a rink, people will be able to pick you out easier out of your equipment than some of the other players. And so she said, play a game that you're proud of. So when you walk out of the rink, you have your head up high and people can know that was you. You were number 87. That was you coming out of the rink. You're proud of the game you play. So I would say that was the first time I really had the experience of recognizing, okay, well, people take note of that. And I think growing up, I was fortunate enough to have female hockey players to look up to, but not in the sense of, female hockey players that looked like me. I had some that I competed against, but not ones that were old enough that I could really idolize them. And I hung up a picture of Evander Kane on my wall because he was a player that looked like me, and he was a great hockey player at the time. And so I aspired to be like him. But for them, I think, like you said, seeing them get on the ice and having young female hockey players look at me like that, it was incredible. Something I will never forget. I know I still have the pictures that they made and little magnets that they made for us, but I think that's you see the spark, and what you did there by bringing them to skate with us was the start of it. Steps that we need to take in the future to make sure that there is that opportunity for Black female hockey players to have someone to look up to have someone that looks like them, that they see, okay, if she can do it and she's like me, I can do it. So that experience will forever stick out to me. And I think if we continue to do stuff like that, and have players like myself not afraid to speak out about their experience and what they want to do and how they want to have an impact, we'll continue to see the game grow in a positive way.
Your story is amazing. And I want to go back to the U14 moment when that first happened. So, you're 13 or 14 years old. Tell me about the reaction from your teammates and your coaches. Was there a reaction?
I had nothing but support from them. I know the next shift I was obviously upset, so I ended up getting a penalty, unfortunately, because I was upset with the situation. And I spoke to my coach after kind of about what happened, and my coach at the time, Chris Donato, he was incredible. He spoke to the other coach and made sure that everyone on my team was supportive. They knew that it was wrong. They knew that that's not the right thing to do. So I had nothing but support from them, and we moved forward from it. And the other coach was spoken to by, I think, our league and other coaches. But in the moment, it wasn't, I felt like my teammates had my back. It was more of like, is this really what you see out of the game? Is this really what you're taking note of? Which kind of caught me off guard. But then again, talking to my mom after and the way she worded it, made me never look at it as a bad thing. Every day I was going to walk in the rink and, with my curly hair and tan skin, and let people know that, I look different, but I'm here to play the sport I love. And for them, that should be no different. You're showing up and lacing your skates up, I'm going to do the same.
No doubt. That's about as easy as we hope it would be. Unfortunately, we know it's not that easy, right? It isn't. Were you, Liv, growing up, were you the only Black skater on all of your teams?
Yes. Until I got to Ohio State. Yeah.
And at no point were you dissuaded from staying a part of it? We're just going to lace up and we're going to go skate because that's what I love to do.
I loved hockey, and no experience, even like that one, was going to change that for me. And, I hope that's the same for other kids. But then again, you hear stories of even athletes today who are playing at the professional level, and their career is getting certain aspects, certain successes taken away from because of, the color of their skin, and some stories that are being told around it. And hockey's a beautiful game. Anyone who plays it knows it. So you don't want that to be taken away for anyone. And you want everyone to experience that feeling that you get when you're skating down the ice and your jersey's picking up in the wind. Like it's something that you want everyone to have. So for me, it was the love for the game was never going to change that. And I was lucky to have teammates around me that, made me feel welcome every day.
Yeah, I think that right there, what you just said, is a huge piece of it, is, being in a supportive environment outside of the few who maybe aren't supportive. After that U14 incident, were there others as you were playing? Were there other moments of slurs or just feelings where you felt maybe like you were targeted, maybe, for lack of a better word?
Not quite. I'm sure there were situations where I wasn't aware of, but no, when I got to high school, I never had to face anything like that. And obviously in college, I had an incredible experience. Props to our staff. I mean, Ohio State itself, and I think our league itself, is just very inclusive, and we practice what we preach, especially in Ohio State, and becoming a family and supporting each other. So it was never anything that I had to deal with as I got older, thankfully. Like I said, there may have been some situations that I don't know of, but my experience was great at the college level and great in high school.
So what do we do moving forward? Like, how do we, as you mentioned, I'm thinking about the young girls from Bloomington Ridgefield last year, and there's a phrase that is used often that hockey is for everyone, and I think there's many of us in different ways who struggle to really believe that phrase in total, because there's work to be done in our sport. There's work to be done to make it inclusive of women, to make it inclusive of players of color, male or female, to make it inclusive of folks who have different sexual preferences or orientations. And, it's at times perceptually a very white male sport. And I don't know that, I think there's a lot of us that can see it from more than that, right? I mean, there's certainly a lot of reasons to celebrate our sport, but there's work to be done. So what do we do? Like, what are some next steps? How do we continue to encourage the next generation of Liv Soares to love the game and lace them up and come play?
Mm-hmm. I think having conversations like this, I think being comfortable with being uncomfortable is, very much so a theme of last year and the past couple months. But I would say just making sure to have those conversations to make sure that you are understanding, maybe if you're playing with teammates of color, their experience and things that they might have dealt with, but at the same time continue to do things like how we did at the WCHA final face-off, and going out of your way to make sure that people do actually feel like hockey is for everyone, because I think it's something you can say, but through your actions you can prove that every day by making sure that you advertise a sport that you love, that it is very inclusive, that it is something incredible and awesome, and that it's something that everyone should want to be a part of.
We've seen over the last, I think probably specifically a couple of weeks even, some other Black female hockey players who are using their platform a little bit differently and are owning that space. And Black Girl Hockey Club, which I'm sure you're, you already mentioned getting comfortable with being uncomfortable, which is part of what they're doing. Are there any other organizations or people who you would, who you're aware of that you would recommend, or we get to know and get to learn from and do some research on?
I would say like the ones that you mentioned, especially from some of the players in the NWHL who have partnered with them and are speaking out about, having hockey be inclusive. The only one I can think of otherwise is Hockey Diversity Alliance, which is through the NHL. Some players there put it together. I think anytime that you can kind of get involved and support and show that you're in line with, I guess, the movement that is starting to be made, and show your support, it's important to do that. And I think, again, a lot of credit to you. The WCHA has done a great job with that so far. So I don't doubt that we'll kind of take the front wheel with that and steer, hopefully, for women's hockey, and showing that we understand that we can have conversations like this and keep pushing forward and making hockey a sport for everyone.
Yeah, I appreciate that. This is so meaningful and valuable, and I think I've had so many conversations in different spaces since I got into this role. And then obviously I think all of us had different conversations coming off of George Floyd's murder, and other things that happened this summer. And it's, my husband is Black, and we have a lot of conversations around maybe why George Floyd's murder was a bit of a tipping point, if you will. Why was that this moment that really ignited it? And was it, because that wasn't the first and it wasn't the last. And, how do we channel that energy, right? How do we channel those desires for change, and not just within hockey, but within our society? And I've got 2 young kids that I'm trying to raise into a world where I need them to understand who they are, and it's okay to be who they are. And they'll go through things that I never went through, and I have to understand that too. I mean, there's just so many layers to it. And I personally have tried to be as transparent as possible. I mean, like I said, you and I've talked about this topic and different topics for a while. And I'm so appreciative of your voice, of your willingness to just say, sometimes it wasn't that easy, but I love the game and I wanted to be a part of the game, and I want other young Black girls to be a part of the game. And that's really, that has to be our push, is to just continue to make our sport available and open, and to educate folks to know that support of teammates and support of coaches goes a long way. I mean, I just think about everything that you said, and if the response is different from your teammates at some point there, if the response is different from your coaches, maybe you're not still playing hockey. So, you know, you're very lucky that you had people in your corner, and it sounds like your mom's advice maybe should be shared with a few others. It's pretty good advice from mom.
Yeah, yeah.
I just appreciate your insight. It's such an important topic, and I think part of why it's easy, or part of why your voice matters even more, is because you stuck it out and you stayed with it, and you were pretty darn good while you were playing. So that's it all comes together. Is there anything else, Liv, on that topic that you'd like to say before we get to know you a little bit in the speed round of questions?
No, I think it was a great conversation. I appreciate you letting me use my voice and use my platform to spark more of this discussion, but I think that was a great conversation.
Awesome. All right. So normally on the Commissioner's Corner, we end with a little like getting to know you segment, where you throw out the first answer that comes to your brain. So we're all going to get to know Liv Soares a little bit better. Are you ready?
Sounds good.
Okay. Favorite food?
Lobster.
Lobster.
Gotta go with seafood.
Yeah, I suppose. You're from Boston. I get it. Favorite movie?
The Heat.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Favorite holiday?
Christmas.
Because of family? Because of tradition? Because of a break from hockey?
No, cookies, fireplace, food. It's my favorite.
Biggest fear?
Roller coasters.
Really?
I don't do well with them. I'll get on them, but I'll freak out in the line, and I don't do well. I don't do well on them.
Well, I'm not going to let you hang out with my daughter then, because she is like the roller coaster aficionado. We went on a ride together last year that I had to go on because she wasn't quite big enough to go by herself, and I think I vomited in my mouth like 3 times. So she, I wouldn't say it's my fear, but I am with you. I could do without.
Yeah,
Dream vacation.
Sorry, one more time.
Dream vacation.
Ooh, anywhere tropical, beach, anything tropical.
Something a little warmer than Columbus, Ohio.
Correct.
Guilty pleasure TV show.
Grey's Anatomy.
Man, you're like the 5th person that said that.
It's the best show.
It's been around forever. Yeah. Forever, longer than you have almost. Game day pump up jam.
Ooh. I actually know from Tatum's video that she mentioned the warm-up mix that we listened to, but I'm always a fan of our on ice warm-up too. We make it ourselves, so we kind of get to customize it in that sense.
Okay. How about when you were playing, your favorite WCHA opponent and why?
I liked playing Wisconsin because it was always a tough game. Granted, I liked playing them in my last 2 years, not maybe my first 2 years. And then I really liked playing Bemidji at Bemidji. I thought it was always a competitive game, always a battle, and they're an aggressive, tough team. And I really like that rink. I might be biased because it's where I scored my first goal, but I really love that rink. I think it's beautiful.
I like it. Okay, we'll end with this one. I'll be interested to see if I get this right, but best hockey memory?
Yeah, winning the WCHA Final Faceoff. But I think that will forever be my favorite hockey memory throughout my entire career of playing.
Well, I'll share it with you. The first one is always going to be stuck in my head too, so we'll have that favorite memory for a really long time together. Liv, thank you so much for taking some time to chat, and you're always welcome anytime, right? Once in the WCHA, always in the WCHA. We're so grateful for your leadership, and we know you're going to make a difference in our sport as you keep moving through, and excited to see you do that. So appreciate your time today, and wishing you the very best of luck.
Thank you. I appreciate it.